Hi, welcome to the tutorial for our Home Sweet Home kit, or just the video or the tutorial if you've purchased just the tutorial. And you can use, of course, any paper. This is such a wonderful album design. A couple things before we get started. You should have gotten your cut list in your email that came along with the link for the video. So it's really best to maybe watch the video first and then go ahead and get everything cut and ready if you want to work along. Now, when you order your kit, you have three choices. If you're using the add-on with the Cartabella paper. So you have, let me put this aside. You can choose, and I'm sorry, we've got this glare from my working light, and it just, let me move this, driving me crazy. So we have the bright white. See if we can get rid of some of that glare. I apologize. And then you have the natural white linen. But for the video, let me move that paper is really, I'm using the Craft. Really like it. It's not a really orange color, and the nice thing is it goes with everything. And this Cartabella paper, let me tell you, if you are making this kit, you're going to want at least 110 cardstock, because you need something heavy duty where we're not having hinges. And this also, even though it's not 110, you would think it is. It's awesome to work with. Does not crack, tear, crease. I mean, it's just beautiful. So that's what we're going to work with. So what we're going to get started with in our kit, now let me tell you, like I said, everything it should be scored. I've done pre-scoring, but I'm going to go back over each design and do the scoring on 3 pieces of it with you, so that it makes sense. And also, you'll need your scoreboard. Of course, you'll need, preferably, if you're using Scor tape, you're going to want your 3/8 of an inch. You're going to want your 1/4 inch and your 1/8 of an inch. And again, you could have gotten this with the add-on with your tape and the Cartabella cardstock. So that was an add-on. Or you can use glue. It works great too, or whatever adhesive you've chosen to use. So you should have you should have already cut the waterfalls. Then we have our side load pages, and we have our top load pages. And I'm going to put the waterfall aside, and we're going to go ahead with our top load page, and we're going to score. Like I said, I've already pre-scored, which it also helps me to not fumble around trying to remember. And if you watch the video for the tutorial on the album, you'll know that the top load page is right here. So this one has the pullouts at the top, and then we have the pullouts at the bottom. Now, your cutting guide, you will need to have 12 pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock for these 2 sets of pockets. So you're going to use all your leftovers. That's the nice thing. You will use your leftovers for your waterfall. So on your first one, you're going to put this at the 7 1/4, so it's right there. And we're going to score at 1/2. We're going to score at 3/4. Okay, now just turn your page, score at 4 1/4, and turn your page, and we're going to score at 1/2 again. I'm going to set that aside. And like I said, we're going to do 3 pages. So we're going to score it, let me start on this side, sorry. 1/2, 3/4, 4 1/4, 1/2. Let's score it. 1/2, 3/4, turn, 4 1/4, and 1/2. Okay, now, like I said, I had mine pre-scored, so if you can go ahead and score your other 3, I'm going to set those aside. For our side load pocket, now this one's a little different. So we always start with the longest down. So this one, we're going to start with this at the 6 3/4 side. We're going to score at 1/2, 3/4. You're going to turn. We're going to score at 4 1/4 again. Now you want to turn this completely around to the opposite side and score at 1/2. And you'll notice you will have a score line at the bottom and in the middle, but you will not have one at the top. One half, 3/4, turn, 4 1/4, completely turn, and 1/2. One half, 3/4, 4 1/4, completely turn, and 1/2. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes. You should go ahead and catch up on that scoring. Go and get the waterfalls. Okay, on your waterfall, you should have used all your scraps, and you will notice you did cut 6 of them at 4 1/2, and then you have 6 that are just an 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch shorter. I believe it should come out to be about a 1/4 of an inch shorter. Reason being, you'll see, is that you need to be able to have it flat, flip up, leave a little space so when you turn the waterfall. And these are quite easy. You should have 12 of these. And we're going to score all 12 just on the 4 1/2 inch side, or the 4 3/8 side. You're going to score at 1/2. 1/2, and on this one I'll do my 6 big ones. It doesn't matter which end, you can just always flip it over 6. There's nothing on there. Now the video will consist of our page construction and putting them all together, and also our making the cover. And then there might be another video if it doesn't fit all in. We'll have to do the decorating one, but that should be no problem. Okay, now your 4 3/8, just go ahead and score them all at 1/2. Okay, this is just the tedious work. So now we can go ahead and put our scoreboard away. And we're going to start with our top load page. Now our top load page had the scoring marks on the 2 long ends, and then 1 in the middle, nothing on the bottom. And this is where it's a little tricky. So go ahead and let's fold all of our score lines. So on these I am going to do all 6 pages with you. And I am folding so that the raised area is in the back. And if you are using the Cartabella cardstock, you don't have to worry about using this edge of your bone folder. It can take it. So I just want to make sure everything. Now, this is where we have to do some hand cutting, and we also have to make sure that we're cutting always the right edge. That's why you might hear me get silent for a minute while I'm thinking things out. So I'm turning mine over so my 1/2 and 3/4 score mark is on my left hand side, and just the 1/2 inches here. With your scissors, and get the tape off mine. Okay, you want to stay on the inside of your score line. You can also use your Fiskars cutters with this. If you are comfortable, you put it in, take it to there with your Fiskars, and it works great too. I'm just going to hand cut mine, so you want to bring it down and angle that off. Okay, so there's our first cut. Now, over here, I'm actually turning this over because I'm right-handed. And what we have is our 2 score marks, score lines. We need to go out here to the outside. And we're going to cut off a 1/4 inch, that excess, up to that middle score line. Do not cross your middle score line. You're going to turn it. And we're going to cut all the way across. Now you're going to have a little bit of a gap there, so you just want to angle that a little bit. So see, that's how that will look. Then I turn and I'm going to go ahead and angle this corner. And then I'm going to turn it and I'm going to go ahead and just angle. No, we're not angling this. Don't ever cut any of this. This is actually where we're attaching. So you need this at the top. Now, this is where your 3/8 of an inch score tape come in play. Fits perfectly, or your wet adhesive. I'm going to use that one there. And for this flap, I'm going to use my 3/8. Now, usually I'll go along, I get all 6 of them ready, taped, and then fold them, but for the video's sake, so that you can work along with me, I'm going to do it this way. Now, before I stick down, yes, I did take it off, I always fold this up and make sure everything lines up really well, because once that tape's off, it's pretty hard to make any adjustments. So let's go ahead and remove our score tape. And then just fold it on up. It should go up there nicely. Shouldn't be crooked. Now you will see maybe you have a little bit showing there, but it's going to be covered in paper. So don't even fret that. So there we have our first top loading pocket. Now it's up to you. You can go ahead and cut a circle out. I left mine plain. You can do that though if you like. So let's do our second one. And if you are working with Cartabella paper cardstock for the first time, you'll see what I'm talking about, how awesome it is to work with. It has it has body to it. I mean, it just holds its shape beautifully. So once again, we're going to make sure we're cutting the right side. So I'm going to flip this over, 1 1/2, 3/4 on this side, and I want to have this over on my right hand side where we're going to cut on the inside. Okay, we're just going to cut to that middle score line. Then we're going to angle it. So we have our first one. So when it folds up, so I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to cut now on the outside of my score line. I need to make it a little more pronounced. You can see it. And that's what gives us our little flap so we can attach. Again, just to the fold line. I'm going to cut that off, and then we're going to cut a little angle into there. I'm going to turn it over. I have to work from my right. Okay, do not touch your hinge side. Your hinge side is where that 1/2 inch and 3/4. So if you just can remember, that's your hinge side. And to stay away from there. So basically, you will have a flap at the top, one here. Now, if for some reason you accidentally, cut it down here instead of up here, it still will work. You're fine. And my 3/8. No, that was my 1/8 and my 3/8. And I just took some of the... Oh, again, I want to make sure it's going to fit. You don't want this to get in the way of your hinge. So do make sure that will fold over. Oh, I don't want to open that up. Now, one thing I forgot to show you. Let's open your hinge. This was the first one I did. Do you see how this is just a little bit off? And that's going to happen. So we're just going to now trim that little piece off, and we're going to make it even. Just don't cut into this fold there. But you can go ahead with your scissors and just even that up, but don't angle it. You don't want it to be angled. Yeah, this is a fun one to do if you are a fan of cutting. I like to cut. So it doesn't bother me at all. So hold on, I'm just gonna, oh God, I just moved my phone over, I apologize. I'm still here. Someone is just asking about the kit. So okay, so we have our hinge on the left. We're going to cut on the inside, and we are going to angle. I'm going to turn it, and now I'm going to cut on the outside up to my middle, straight across. Remember, just to that first cut. Then we're going to angle right there. I mean, sorry, you will go over to the second. Ah, come on out of there. Crease our edges. Make sure everything fits. See, I cut instead of the bottom, the top, which is fine. You just want to make sure one side or the other. When we get this part done, like I mentioned, the making of the pockets, because there are so many, is a little bit monotonous, but you will be amazed at how fast this goes together. Because once you've got it made, once you have it down, all your pages, you don't have to go back, make hinges, attach them to the book. So this just takes a couple of steps out, which is really nice. So you have 3 made. Okay, we're going on to our 4th page. We have the 3rd one made. And we're just folding on that hinge side. Okay, once again, I'm going to turn it over. Let's cut on the inside. Let's angle that. Then we're going to go ahead and cut over. Now see, I do this, I get myself mixed up. Apologize. Turn this one over. Sorry, I should have turned my phone completely off. Okay. Now we're on this side, and we're cutting on the outside score line. Straight across that score mark to the middle. Let's angle there. Then we're going to angle the top. And I realized I did not angle that last on page 3, so I hope you didn't catch me, but it's not going to do too much harm if you forgot, like I do. There's always one page I forget something. Then we're going to add our 3/8 and then the 1/8. Make sure everything's going to fit well. If it's not and it looks to be just a little bit off, go ahead and tell that paper where you want it to be. Okay, let's move our Scor tape lining. I tried to make this quite easy if you purchased the kit, so that you had everything available, your magnets, your Scor tape, so that you could just breeze along in the construction of this. And I know I do a lot of turning of my pages. I just get paranoid that I've cut the wrong side, or I didn't, you know, get a straight line. I'm really excited to see how this one turns out with the cardstock color. Okay, go ahead and cut our 1/2 inch side. And we're going to cut this side. Now, I think that you guys have pretty much got the hang of it. So when we do our next set of pages, I will do the first 3 with you, and then I will go ahead and fast forward, because I know this folding is different for some of you if you've never done it, so I wanted to make sure, you know, it was clear. Now let me go ahead and cut my corners. And so you won't have to sit through all 6 pages. So, but we'll just do the one more together of our top load. And the bottom load, I mean the side load ones are quite easy. Oh, there's my, make sure one more time everything's going to go where I need it to go. Looks good. Move our Scor tape. And down. Now this one I noticed I was getting a little bit off. So I am just going to take my ruler. I love this little thing I got at Lowe's. I'm just going to trim it up. Now it's very possible I cut this a little off on my cutter. That's one thing when you're making this album, you do need to make sure you're cutting them exactly on the measurements. Okay. Much better, much happier. I'm going to turn it over on this side and make sure my hinge is nice and straight and even. And number 6. This will go really fast, especially once you get the hang of it. Just put your computer music on or the shows that you like to watch when you're scrapbooking, and you'll be amazed at how fast this will go. hinge on the other side. Cut right to that first score line. Do an angle. Angle that one, and then we're going to angle the side that is not the hinge. Double check that everything fits. There we go. Fold that right up. And straighten out my edge. And there we have our 6 top load pages. All right, let me get rid of some of this garbage. And now we're going to do the side load. Garbage can over. Like I said, I'll go ahead and we'll do 3, and I will stop the tape so I can then continue taping on, but you can work on the next 3. This is quite a bit the same. You're going to go ahead and start with your hinge side and get that folded, then your center. Now as you fold this over, you're going to see how it's shorter there. So we need to fold this down. So on this one, basically what we have is 1 cut. We need to have our hinge, of course, and this is where this one's a little tricky. When you fold it this way, if you notice I've got this fold at the top, that's not going to work because we have to have that hinge. So you have to make sure you fold it the way you need your hinge. So I'm going to reverse it. I'm just going to fold that over. So I wouldn't tape or do anything until you make sure, because your hinge has to be this single piece right here, which means we have to cut off this side. Okay, but we still need a piece to fold in. So once again, you have your 2 score lines. All we're going to cut is, I'm going to turn it this way. Not this first, we're going to, not this inside score line, but this outside score line, just like we did before. We're going to cut right down that score line. Okay. Now we're going to turn it and go across the middle. I'm going to angle that again. Now I'm going to fold that in. Make sure everything looks right. It does. So I can go ahead on the short side where we cut that off. We're going to angle there. And then I'm going to angle it right there. Okay. Like I said, make sure you're going to have that hinge. And then you need to make sure you've cut in far enough on this for a score line that it will fold up. So it will sit right inside of your hinged area, and then that will fold over. So this is what it should look like. So you have the hinge here at the bottom. You've cut half of the score line off, your 1/4 inch, angled. Then we have our 1/2 inch fold here. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over and put our adhesive on this back side. Now, when you come here, you're going to notice it's really bulky, and you don't want that bulk. So what we're going to do, we're going to, after we put this, well, okay, I should have told you this first. If you're using wet glue, wait till you cut this. You can just kind of wipe it off right now. If you're using the Scor tape, put it on, then you're going to start right about there as if you were angling it, okay? And you're just going to turn and take a little bit off. It's really not a lot. So you're going to take that corner off. So when you fold it, they're not going to meet perfect because one side is smaller, but they are going to meet just a hair. And it's going to give a flatter fold instead of a big bulky fold. So I'm going to take that off, and if they happen to meet, great. If they don't, that's okay too. Okay, go ahead and remove your Scor tape. So now you should have that look. Bring it up. Now once again, we're going to turn it over. Clean that up so we have nice smooth area, hinges even. Okay, now you have your hinged area, and now you have a side load pocket. Okay, I know that one's a little tricky. So once again, we're going to check. We need our hinge up here at the top on this left-hand side. So we're going to fold that in. We're going to have to reverse it. Because when I cut off, I need this to be my hinge. So you will have your fold up at the top. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut off, I'll turn it, I'm right-handed, I'm going to cut off to that first score line. I'm going to go straight across. I'm going to angle. And I'm going to go ahead and do my corners here. Now, if you want, you can go ahead right now and cut it. I prefer to do it with my Scor tape, but I wanted to show you you can on there because it cuts off both edges, and then I don't have to worry about there being too much hanging over the edges. But I can see I'm going to need to cut this anyway because it's a little bulky. So I'll adjust that after I put my Scor tape on. So I got that down. And I know this sounds crazy, but I have lost my 1/4 Scor tape. I have a tendency to throw it in the garbage. But I put it in my drawer. I don't know why I do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that just a little bit more. Because you just don't want the bulk, any bulk there. Sure. Looks good. I'm going to take the Scor tape off. And fold it right up. And looks good. That looks a little off. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. Because it will drive me nuts. So you can see this one is a little bit more tricky in the folding of it. And I know that I've mentioned in some of my other videos, if you watched, being ADD, sometimes you really do have to stop and recheck your work constantly. It drives me crazy. So let's make another one together. And now I'm going to let you go ahead and finish, and we'll move on to the waterfall. So I'm going to turn this over. Cut right there. Straight across. I'm going to angle. Turn over, and I'm going to angle this side. And I'll go ahead and wait until I put score tape down, and then I'll angle that some more. And I love how score tape is made in so many different widths so that there's a size to fit everywhere. And then in the video, you will notice I do use score tape even for matting my pages. I have found it's actually cheaper for me to just use score tape. When I moved with using my ATG gun, I was buying ATG tape. I was buying score tape. I was buying glue. And then most of the time, I couldn't find ATG tape, or Michael's was constantly out. And then I tried the bargain no name, and it just didn't stick. I had my books fall apart, and so I just said, that's it, I'm just going to use my score tape. And I've had books that have stayed together for 5 years. You won't have to worry, that's for sure, about your albums coming apart. But if you're not using score tape to mat your pages, that's okay too, but I would suggest you use it or something strong in the construction of the cover. Okay, so here's our 3. And I'll let you go ahead and finish the other 3, and we will get started in a few minutes on the waterfall. Okay, on to our waterfall. You should have 6 pieces that are 8 by 4.5, and then you have 6 pieces that are 8 by about 4 3/8. So you can see that it is about 1/8 of an inch shorter. You can even go shorter if you prefer. And I'll show you what this does. So I've made 3 of them, and we'll go ahead and do the next 3 together because these are quite simple. So here's your waterfall. And as you had seen in the album itself, when you open your album, so your flap comes down, and then it's going to fold up. So you're going to have 4 spaces. You have 1, 2, 3, and then the back side 4, so that you can put your recipes. You can go ahead and put your decorative paper in here if you prefer. I used an ivory so they can write on it, or I can just put your you can just put them right down on the page, and then they'll fold right up. So you need to have one, and I didn't do it in my this original album, a little bit shorter, so when you turn the page, see, it's hitting just a little bit, which is, it's okay. It's just, I decided let's cut it down, and then we won't have that problem. So what you want to do to get this look, very simple. We're going to fold the top down because that's where our waterfall is going to attach. Then when you turn it over is where your seam will be. I hope you can see that okay. So you're going to take the one that's a little bit taller, and that is what's going to attach onto your page. Now if you're using your wet glue, of course don't put it up here yet. So our next piece, so we want it to fit right there. So now you can see there's a little bit of a seam, or not a seam, but a space. But you do want it to attach to the back. So I already did put my score tape on when I turned the camera off, so that you don't have to go through all that. So I use my 3/8 right here, and I'm using my 3/8 right here. And I'm just going to set it down, make sure it's nice and straight. I hold it tight right here so it doesn't move. Still, I need to check it again. I check and check and check. Okay, so now you have your hinge part, and it will close. So that's how we'll make the next 3. So you just, like I mentioned, make sure you have a taller one and then the shorter one. One has to be a little bit shorter. There we go. So I'm going to fold the taller one, the top flap back. Like I said, this Cartabella paper is nice and sturdy. So this will be my 1/8 of an inch shorter. And you can also put a decorative edge on here if you like. You can punch it. I didn't. I felt working in the kitchen where this album is going to be, because the lady makes cupcakes, so I knew it was going to get use. A decorative edge, when she pulls down, you know, you take the chance of, some of them are very intricate and they can tear, so make sure you're choosing one that doesn't have a lot of intricacy to it. And or if you're, you know, using this of course for pictures, I wouldn't worry about that too much. So there's our next one, and this is my last one. It'll be your third, unless you were, you know, used your written tutorial. Now I need to make sure we're edge to edge. We look good. And now we'll have all of our waterfalls. Now on this one is where one of the magnets goes, and I went ahead and used on the first flap, I'm going to use one of the small magnets. And if you ordered the add-on kit, you will already have these. No, I mean, if you ordered the kit, sorry, they come in, not the add-on. They're part of your kit. They're not necessary. It's just extra security. So I always put it down on your shortest piece first. Now, with these basic grade magnets, they are great to use, but sometimes that adhesive just isn't that strong. So what I do is I put it down, then I put a piece of tape over, and that keeps it from lifting off when you go to reopen it. I'm going to put the next one down. And see, now they're staying together, but I'm still going to go ahead and put my adhesive over the top, just to ensure it doesn't go anywhere. So now we have 6 waterfalls. 5, let's see, I can't count today. 2, 3, 4, 5. My magnet's going to be the first one, and 6. So now you're going to need to grab your 8x9 base that we cut in the beginning. So you're going to have a 9x9 base and an 8x8 base. So we're going to take our shorter one. And since we already have, if you're using Scor tape, your Scor tape on, we're going to start with the piece that has the magnet. Okay, now make sure, well, you'll be able to tell. So obviously that's the 9-inch. So here's our 8-inch. It should fit perfect onto that 8-inch piece of paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off maybe 1/3 of the tape, because it's easier to remove a small portion of this if it wasn't straight than the whole thing. So that looks good. Let's open it while holding down. just go ahead and remove your score tape, backing, and then it doesn't move. It goes on straight. Perfect every time. So let's open it up. And our next one, again, you'll see where that line ends, and that's where our next one will start. So again, I'm just going to remove a portion of my score tape. Make sure I get everything lined up. Like to hold it down. And there we go. Now our belly band is what's going to help hold everything else down. Now see, when it turns, it's going to turn really nice because we've made that 1/8 of an inch cut. Once you make one album, you can see how quickly it really does come together. So you can actually make a couple of these just in a week's time, especially if you're, you know, looking for gifts and you need to get them out there. Make sure everything is down. I'm just going to turn that for a minute, make sure we're not, yep, I am off just a hair. So I'm just going to do a little forceful scoring here. I'm going to make it go over. And it did. And when you're forcing your paper to refold like that, you do have to push hard. But most of the time, 99% of the time, it will move for you and give you a better lineup right there. Okay, so here goes number 4. And we'll double check that I've got it on straight. And our 5th one. I'm beginning to think maybe my base was just a little bit off. But I think I can live with that, but let me just see if I can't encourage it to go over a little bit more. We did. And the last one for our waterfall. Up. And there we have our waterfall. Now we're going to have a belly band, and we're also going to make a pocket, but we have to do our belly band first. And again, you should have plenty of your scraps left, and you're going to pick a piece. It's going to have to be this one because we know this is 8 inches across, and actually this 4.5 piece is just fine. Or is this one yeah, this one's a 4-inch piece. You should have had these if you used your 12 by 12. So we need to have a 1/2 inch for each side and a 1/2 inch for the bottom. So let's go ahead and cut this to 9. But we're not going to do anything with that yet. So your belly band has to go on first. Now when you open your pages for the first couple of times, you're just going to have to kind of to work your paper because it's really stiff. So for our belly band, what I did is I chose a piece that of course is left over, but long enough to go about 3/4 of the way. So we don't want it this big. Let's go ahead and grab my other cutter. And I'm going to cut this down to 1.5. And you know, that was something I didn't write down, was the width of my belly band. It's 1.5. You can make it wider also if you like. So what you're going to have is you're going to have 2 1.5-inch pieces, and this should be long enough to go on the other side of our book. Let's double check. Anything to, yep, this will be long enough. Now mine in this book is a little bit wider. I did go with the 2-inch. So if you do want more of the 2-inch, then of course you're going to choose a different piece of scrap, and you should have plenty of scraps. So I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to put my pocket just to the side for a moment. And let's go ahead and get out our scoreboard. Now on your scoreboard, you're going to want to score 1/2 of an inch and 3/4 of an inch. For this, it is important that you do have some room there because we need to fit it over a pocket, and we need some room for when we put recipes in there. Now, how I got my pointed end, I'm going to show you how I did that, and I'm going to show you a couple of things you can do. So how I got it pointed like this. I just took my paper, turned it over, so you've got your hinge here. Now you want to take your 2 corners, fold them perfectly to meet each other. While holding it down, just kind of squish it. Now you can go ahead and open it and cut that off if you would like. I left mine down for strength for grabbing it. Now also, this didn't quite come to a point, so if you don't want it, if you squared like that, let me get up closer, then just go ahead and open this up and see if you can bring it together a little better. I know this is quite an unorthodox, old-fashioned way to do it, but I like it. Works best for me. And if you choose to cut it, then you've got your like score lines there, so you can cut it off so you don't have the thickness. And I am going to go ahead and cut this one off just to show you the difference. And really there's not a lot, but you will get more of a point. So if that's what you're after, it's either way. It works great either way. So what we're going to do is we're going to now put our adhesive or score tape in the 1/2 inch area. And that is the piece that is going to go to the back. You can measure if you want to measure and get it right in the center at 4, or you can just wing it, which is what I usually do. So we'll remove our adhesive, make sure it's straight. Now when you turn it over, you're going to want to put a large magnet on this one. And I have to tell you, some of these basic grade, the large magnets, I don't know if they've been through a heat change, or I just don't know. Sometimes you can get these off without the tape coming, and sometimes you can't. So I'm going to push it down and see if that helps. Well, the adhesive's there, but it's not wanting to come, only half of it. So what I'm going to do is take my 3/8 of an inch score tape, which is stronger anyway. Just put that down. Remove the back with them together. Now you want to bring it down to a wide spot, because if you get it too close, you're not going to be able to cover it with your paper. And we're going to see if we can get this off. I did it. Very nice. And when you're doing this, it's kind of, yeah, it's very wobbly when you have your Scor tape stuck to the back. Get over here. So you want to hold it down and make sure you push a little bit so you're not pulling it. Let me show you. You don't want to pull it or you're going to lose your gap there. So you need it to be able to wiggle, have a nice square boxed edge. Okay, then if you guide it and you feel it straight, then you go ahead and put it down. Now I just bring this over. Oh, see, it's not wanting to stick too great. So I'm holding this and I'm going to push down and move it to the side so I don't lose the magnet spot. And immediately, let's cover it. Now I'm going to take a smaller piece. I don't want it to overlap too much up here. I'm going to also cover it with my tape. And there you have your closure. Plus we have the extra security if there's a small one there. Now we can do our pocket. So let's get our scoreboard and our 9" by 4" piece. And you're going to score it 1/2, 1/2, and then 1/2 again. And let's go ahead and fold on our score lines. Now, before I even add my score tape, I'm going to move my waterfall up and just double check. I want to make sure that everything is perfectly straight. Okay, so I removed my score tape, and now I want to make sure it's right at the bottom. And then let's just burnish it down. Good. So you have your nice pocket. You can bring your flaps from your waterfall all down. And there you are. Like I said, it's going to be a little stiff at first, so just go ahead and move it around so it doesn't, see how it wants to come up. So when it's doing that, you may just need to go ahead and score a little bit harder. Now, if you're using a different paper, your paper, of course, may act a little different. With this Cartabella paper, it's very firm, so you do have to work with it just a little bit, but it's nice. Then you know your projects will be, they're heavy, they're nice. So let's turn it over. If I'm going to go ahead and put my score tape on, if you're using your adhesives, whichever, don't of course do this till we're going to put it down on our cover. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the back with my score tape. And I'm going to put about 4 rows, and yes, you will see how crooked I put my score tape on, but it still adheres well. So let's go ahead and put that on the back. Now we're going to set this one aside. So this is our waterfall that will go on the left-hand side of the book. And now for the right-hand side of the book. We will need our top loads. Double check here or something. I think I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6, but let me show you. I just noticed what has happened. I put it on upside. Oh no, I didn't. I'm just not with it this morning. I apologize. Okay. If you look at it and it's upside down, that's all you have to do is turn this round. The only difference is now on the outside I am going to have a seam here instead of a nice solid, so I'll make that my last one. But that happens. especially if you're me, you may have put things on upside down, so just move this hinge to where it's convenient for you. You can't do this with a page that's going to go on an actual hinge because you can't put it on upside down. You can't turn it. That's what I love about this. So now I've got a movable, basically, hinge. Your top loads are going to go at the top, and of course these are at the bottom. You can't put these on the bottom. Well, I guess you could, but then your recipe is going to get in the way. That's why that one's at the top. So let's get our next base page, which is 8 by 9. So our 8 by 9. Let me just move this over so I can get some room. Okay, so on our 8 by 9, you want to make sure that the 9-inch piece is going left and right here, and then up and down is the 8 inches. So we have to put on the side load pockets first. Okay, and I didn't go ahead and pre-tape all these. I guess I should have. But what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll get the first one put down, and I will stop the camera here so that you can go ahead and get all yours prepared if you're using Scor tape. Now what you want to do is on this is make sure, I'm going to turn it, it's easier for me to work this way. Make sure that it is at the bottom, that they match right here, because we need the space between the two of them. So I'm just going to remove, actually I'm going to do it on this edge on my right hand side. I'm going to remove some of my Scor tape and make sure it is the right pocket. And then I'm going to match it down here with this corner. Lay it straight and hold it. Then I'm going to push down when I get it to where I want it. See, it's so much easier to move it where you need it if you don't remove all of that Scor tape at once. And now we're going to push up on it and get that second fold. So there is our very first, your first fold, first flap. And I'm going to go ahead and trim. I see a little tape here. Just going to take that piece off. So I'll go ahead and stop the camera, get everything taped, and be right back. Okay, so I have my Scor tape on all my flaps. And what I'm going to do is, we're still working at the bottom because we need to get these all put across. Again, we have our Scor tape. Now, you'll notice you need to have this little ridge there. So when I'm working on this, let me show you. I just kind of push it forward. I'm going to remove the right side. Line everything up. Make sure we're still even with this bottom. And I lost my Scor tape. I can tell it didn't quite come off. Now, you don't always have to do it this way if you're comfortable taking your Scor tape off. And a lot of times I do. I just rip it off, but for the video, so that we can make sure everything's straight and I don't mess you guys up. And actually, even when I am comfortable and confident, I still would rather be safe than sorry, because this is a lot of work we've put into this to have it messed up. And I don't always get things perfectly straight. If you're one of those lucky ones that do, you'll have to teach me one day. So there we go. Now on our bottom, the reason now you might be able to start seeing why, and I did take it all off, so you can see why you needed so many magnets, because the bottom one here, we do have to put our magnets on. I toyed with the idea of a belly band coming from this side, but you have recipes that are going to be sticking out, and a belly band would have gotten in the way. So that's the reason. There are a few extra magnets on this one, and why I included them as part of your kit. Sorry about the phone, but I have that turned off now. I thought I had it on silent, and nobody ever calls unless I am filming, seems like, or the kids come down, or you know how it works. So let's get everything lined up. Remove our tape. Now we want to go back and make sure everything's down. Now for that, when I do go back, I don't use my bone folder. I have poked in before. I just love this Cricut tool. So I'm just going to push everything down. Make sure that has a nice good hold on it. And there is our bottom recipe holders. So now I'm going to go ahead and get my magnets, and I'll show you on the first couple, and then I'll go ahead and move on, and we'll do the top, and you can go ahead and continue also. So again, you need to remember, you want to go inside of your pocket here so that you don't have it too close to the edge. I'm going to go ahead and remove that tape on the bottom. You know, if you're doing this and you just have a double stick, or excuse me, a piece of Scotch tape, if you don't have Scor tape, you can go ahead and use that too, or your red line, any one you want to put over the top. Now, you want to make sure you're lining these up, because they are, as you can see, a little wiggly, and you want it to be straight. Your magnet is going to help hold that also in place. So I'm going to go ahead and see how I'm just kind of sliding them apart. And let's move on to our second one. So once you get this all put together and the paper's down, it won't be as wiggly. My magnets are going crazy here. That's what I like, having my magnetic mat. Excuse me. It helps to keep them under control. Slide that right off of there. Okay, let's get this back off now of this one, if it's going to come. Again, kind of hold your pages, line them up, and then push down. Slide that to the side. And let's do one more. And then we'll start at the top. And we can come back. You can do those on your own. You won't have to listen to me. Oh, I need a plus one. Well, we're going to have to do it this way. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of my adhesive. Because I need to be able to use two negatives. And that will work great. My Scor tape. And again, I'm going to put it away from my edges. This probably isn't necessary where I use Scor tape on there. It holds it down really well when you use Scor tape. And that came off anyway, so we're going to have to do it again. make sure when you're turning, you don't want to bring all your pages up. Again, let's line everybody up here. Push down. And there you go. Now you'll just need to go on with 1, 2, and you do need one on this back page. So you'll need to use 6 magnets all together, 6 sets. Now let's do our top. So the top is going to be our top loaders. Again, I'm going to turn this. Now you're going to want to make sure we put that right at the very top because we need this space. Now before we put down any paper, then we're also going to put you can put some decorative paper here. No, I take that back. I did it after. I'll show you, but we are going to put some decorative paper right in there. So on this one, now on my left hand side, I'm going to push it forward on that first score. Definitely on my first one, I'm going to leave that score tape intact until I make sure things are lined up. If you don't line them up here, you're going to have pages that are going to go off in every direction. Okay. Push up on that first score line. Go backing and line up with my magnets. Now, if you don't want to use a belly band, you can put magnets on these pages also. It would look great anyway. I thought it looked nice with the belly band. It gave it a little bit of a different look. That's fine. And excuse me if I get quiet once in a while. I just want to make sure I get this on perfectly straight. These are so much fun. Actually, I'm really excited to get to the decorating part. And I love when it goes on nice and straight the first time. Notice this one, I must not have trimmed it. There, get that a little bit straighter. Oh, this was my backwards one too, so it will be fine though. Okay, I'm going to put them all down. I'm going to get rid of my garbage. I'm going to take my tool, or you can use your finger, back end of a pencil, and I'm just going to make sure everything is down. Now, even if I was using a wet adhesive, I would still do this to make sure there was no air bubbles and make sure everything was down. Okay, now we're going to need you'll need your big magnet, and we're going to need a different sheet of paper. Okay, so I didn't push record. let me show you when you're going to see a spot where it left off, okay, where I said you need this different sheet of paper. So I won't be able to make it again with you. This is the belly band like you did on your waterfall, except we're going the sideways, and I cut it at 2 inches instead of 1.5. So, and I did it exactly the same way as on the waterfall, and then I taped the back. I don't know what happened. I guess I didn't hit record, so I apologize. You can see it's the same, and I went ahead and did my corner just like we did on the waterfall. Now you just attach it to the side. And then, of course, you'll want to go ahead and finish these. Now, we need to cut all of our recipe cards. So what I've done is I take my ruler and I set it inside, and you want it to be out because we're going to use, if you have an envelope cutting board, you're going to use that. If not, you can leave them plain, or you can just also just put a tab on there. So I'm cutting mine at 6 1/4 because we measured about 5 7/5. And then your pockets are 4 and about 4 1/4. So a 4-inch by 6 1/4 should fit very nice. And then I'm going to end up cutting it, and I'll have a little tab. You can make them longer if you like. Now, you're going to need a 12-inch piece of paper, a 12 by 12, and it's going to take a couple of them. So what you want to do, though, is on your 12 by 12, so we know it needs to be 6 1/4. So cut this down to 6 1/4. You'll have this piece left over, and we're going to be able to use that for some more. And we're going to cut out. So you'll get 3, 2, 4. You should get out of that 2, 4. Yeah, you'll get 3 out of a sheet. So it's going to take 2 sheets for this one, and then we'll see what we have on our leftovers. So I'm going to cut this to 6 1/4. And I apologize, like I mentioned before, my camera is over. I mean, not my camera, my cutting board. So I'm going to take my piece that I cut off, making this 6 1/4. Now I'm going to cut these into 4s. Okay, so I have 3 more. I would have had a couple more, but I messed up. So for right now, I'm just going to put them on the inside. That one's a little long for some reason. I'm just going to sit them all inside until we're ready. And if you don't like the way those fit, you can cut them down. Again, if you want them to be a little thinner. I don't think that's quite a 4. Oh, it is. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have had 6. So I'm going to wait for my last one where I messed up. Now, this one, you'll see on your top, it should fit in just fine. That was the piece that we cut off. And with this one, I'm going to put my ruler in. I always do that to check it, to see how much I want sticking out. Well, let's go with our second one then, fine. So when I put my ruler in, it goes down past the 4. So I'm going to cut these probably at 4, just a hair over 4 1/4. So I want, even though they're going to be a little higher, they will stick out your book, but it's okay. They stick out just a hair on the one I made. And then we're going to set them in, and again, we'll be cutting these. Oh, moved my camera so you get to see my striped shirt. We're going to cut these. I'm going to use my envelope punch board to make my tabs. Let me show you those again. So there's our tabs. So you might even want to go longer. Oh no, that's just fine what we did. And then see our top ones, how they do stick out, but they look like they're in a nice order. And you will need 6 of those. And you can put more in if you like. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and get ready now. We're going to need to make our cover. And I will go ahead and turn off the camera, get all the chipboard cut, and finish putting my magnets on. And I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, time to get started on our cover. If you have ordered the kit, then you did receive your chipboard pre-cut. So you have two 9.5. Bring you in 9.5 by 9.5. That's your covers. Then you'll have a 9.5 by 3 and two 9.5 by 1.5. These are your spines. So what we're going to do is start with 3 sheets of your cardstock that you're going to use for your covering. And I'm going to use, to put these together, my 3/8 of an inch score tape. And what I do is I like to join them together using my score tape there. And then I'm going to use a 1/4 inch on the piece that I'm joining. The reason being is it's going to overlap a little bit, and I want to have as much security on that edge as possible. Make sure that's down good. Remove our covering. Now, this is a long cover. I'm going to try and do, sections so that I can keep in camera with you. And if I do get a little off, I apologize. So let's go ahead and make sure we have that down good and firm. And now I'm going to move on to this piece, and it doesn't matter. You can either use your 1/4 inch or your 1/2 inch on this, just so you're using, or your wet adhesive, something wider on this piece. Whoop. Okay. Make sure that's down. Remove the backs. And now we're going to put these two together. Now, I'm not too worried about it being, perfectly straight, because we are going to cover it with our pattern paper and it won't show. Now, what you want to do when you're making your cover on this one, let me give you an idea, because we have to have it so long. We have the 9.5 by 9.5, then we have a spine, the back, the spine, and then the cover. And that's exactly how we're going to lay it down on our paper. So we're going to start with the 9.5 by 9.5, and I kind of place it. I like to get an eye for it, and I'll show you why. We have a seam, and you do have plenty of room to kind of work on this. So I don't want my seam to land. So there's my seam. I wouldn't want it to be right like that, because when you bend it, it is going to maybe come loose. So I want to make sure that seam is in about half in the middle of my first spine, and then I can adjust my cover to the left. So we're good there. And I'm going to use now my 1/4 or 1/2 inch score tape for this. We just get a big long thing going here. So what I do is I just kind of get my score tape there, I unwind it, I have a big long tail, so I don't have to keep doing it, and then I just work with it. Once you start working with your score tape, you get used to it. Now, you probably will want, on this size of an album, at least 4 middle parts. Okay? Now, I'm going to go ahead with my spine. We're going to tape down our spine. Now, you'll see how I do mine a little different. I spent a lot of time making albums. One thing that just drives me crazy is when I make an album and the cardstock cracks when you bend it. And I'm going to tell you, the reason that happens is you don't have enough space in between your chipboards. And a lot of people will tell you that you only need to have the double width in between your chipboard and your spine. I think that's wrong. You need more than that, and I'll show you. I use my 1/4 inch score tape for a spacer, and I've never had my paper crack, even when I'm using like graphic 45. I can use a graphic 45 paper that does have a tendency to crack, and it won't crack because I've left enough room for my paper to bend. And then you have that 1/4 inch score tape in the middle that acts almost like a magnet to pull your papers down. You can see I'm kind of running out of room, but now you're going to want to leave about 1 inch because we have to be able to wrap, and you want at least 1 inch top and bottom. So that's our first piece, and if it's not perfectly straight, that's okay because nobody will see. Now I'm going to take my 1/4 inch score tape. If you're not using score tape, go ahead and mark a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to put this in between every one of my pieces. And I am going to remove it. Then my chipboard, next piece, will just butt up against it. And if you do this, you're ensuring there is enough room for that chipboard when it bends that it will not crack. So I kind of just lay it next to it and move it, just how I gauge. Okay, set down a little bit more. Okay, now I'm going to move just a hair. I'm angling just a little bit so I can work on it. Now I'm going to put between this spine and my back cover another piece of score tape. And let's get our other 9.5 by 9.5 piece. You can remove this now or when you're ready to put it down. And if you forget, you still can take it off. It comes up pretty easy. The cover is something that I usually make last. I don't make my covers first, only because I have had to adjust my inner pages before. And if you're going to adjust your inner pages and you make your cover first, then you're pretty well stuck. All right, we're going to have to help that come be a little bit. There we go. More secure on the chipboard. Now, if you're using a wet adhesive and this is your first album, don't get it too wet. Your cover will be like wallpaper and it will wrinkle and it's not going to lay down nice. So use glue all over, but still be sparing. Don't slop it everywhere. Trust me, this paper will wrinkle. So we're going to pull it out. If you can use a ruler, I don't. I just eyeball it. So there we have the front cover, a spine, the back cover. And now we're going to add our other spine. And first I'm going to lay down this 1/4 inch score tape. Now I'm looking at this seam. It's going to be close. And I'm going crooked here. It's going to be a little bit close. But it's still okay. It's not right on the edge. That's the main thing. You do not want to be right on the edge of your chipboard. 1/4 inch down the middle. Ah. Okay, let's line this up again. Like I said, if you see you're going crooked, you're just fine. Now you can see I do a bigger space there than most people. Okay, now we're going to do our cover, our 3-inch cover. And it is quite important that we do have this space here for that cover. We have that. I thought it'd be a lot nicer in the kit to have the chipboard cut for you, because sometimes it's just not fun to cut this much chipboard. Okay, now our cover piece. There we go. Let's see, I've got a drink here I need to move. So now you're going to have quite a piece left here. What I do is I take my ruler and I measure, about 1 inch or so. And then I take my knife and I just cut that right off. Now you'll be able to use this. Now we get to do some bending here. So go ahead. Let's do some bending of our seams. Now you will be able to bend it right down because we have that 1/4 inch, but never force it. I'm just going to go ahead and bend this way. And I'm just very lightly pushing. I'm not even really, because I'll show you what we want to do once we get the rest. Now I'm just going to run my finger back here, and I'm just in the seam, just kind of pushing that back in, smoothing out where I just bent the paper, and on with more score tape. So we're going to go all the way around here. I'm going with my 1/2 inch score tape. I'm trying to keep this in camera. I'm sure you can see how long it is now that you have yours made. Okay, and I'm going to do the very bottom. And you're not going to see the whole bottom. I apologize, but I'm just doing it like the top, because if I hit my keyboard, I'll turn the camera off. I've already done that once. Okay, so we have that down. Now go ahead and get it all pushed down. Now, when we bend this over, we do want score tape here because we want that extra catch at the top. The choice is yours. You can use 1/4 inch. I'm going to use 3/8 right here. I don't need quite a... And I'm just going all the way across the top. Then we're going down the side Again, like I said, I'm going across the bottom just like I did at the top. And then I'm going across this edge. Okay, now we're going to ensure that that's firmly down. And we will need our scissors. On the corners, we need to cut them off. Now it's up to you. If you have a tool, you can actually just bend it in that way up against that edge, and you'll see where you need to cut it. Now I go on the outside of that. I like a little extra room. I don't like the chance of getting too close. So you can either bend it, but make sure you go on the outside of that bend, or you're going to have too small of an angle for it to meet. So if you're, you know, just unsure, you can do it that way, or you can just eyeball it, leaving an 1/8 to not quite a 1/4 inch. Now, because we need to like pre-bend this a little bit, I'm going to pick this up from the bottom. It's hard to see, I know. And actually, I'm just pushing on it. And there's really no other way to get a score, and I'll tell you why. I have this pink mat, and because it does have a little bit of this lip right here, can you see that? One time I was going along scoring, and right where it fell down, well, my tool went into the paper and ripped it, and I was so sad. So I don't do that anymore. So what I do is I grab it, and then I push. Let me see if I can turn it so you can see. There we go. And I'm pushing on the bottom, just kind of helping it get that pre-fold. And I'm going to do the same thing here. And I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing here. So I hope that makes sense. Now you should have it somewhat of a little bit of a pre-bend. It already knows which way it's going. Put my tape away and make some more room here. Okay, now we're going to remove all of our scored tape lining. Every bit of it. If you're doing wet glue, only do one section at a time. Don't put glue all the way around. It will be too dry before you get everything turned over with an album this big. I'm trying to move it so I can be in camera so you can see. So what I'm going to do is start here, and I'm in the middle. This is our very first spine, and I'm going to start working down, and I'm going to push it down. I'm going to work to my left. I'm just going to use my hands because I do not want to rip anything up at the top. Should lay really nice with this Cartabella paper. It's gorgeous. We're going to do the bottom. I've just turned it around. So do your top and your bottom, or your bottom and your top first. Now you can take your bone folder on the rounded side. Do not go up on the edge. You just want to push down and get everything down really well. Be careful on those corners, because a bone folder and sharp chipboard edge will create a tear. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and where our bends are, kind of push your finger in there. Or if you have this wonderful tool from Cricut, or I think Silhouette may even have some tools, the blunt ends work really well. Push that in. Should bend really nice, but be careful. Now we're going to fold this end down. What I do is I bring it towards me. Okay, so right here's the front. Here's me. I do it this way on my corners. I don't know why. It's just easier. Let me move the camera some more. It's easier for me. So I'm just going to push that corner and round it over the edge of that chipboard. Okay. And then I'm just going to bend this down. Now the reason I went ahead and did this first is so I could have that flexibility. I didn't want to be bending that corner down and push hard and then crack my paper. So once again, and you know, any of your Cricut tools will work because they have this nice blunt end. Now see the purpose of that glue, I mean that score tape at the bottom, at that edge, it's actually sucking that down and holding it into place. So now I'm going to come over to this edge, and again I know this is really close because this is the tall end, and I'm bending it over that corner, and then I'm pushing it down because you don't want it to stick out. Bone folder, now we're going to go on that one, the sides. We're going to make sure everything's down. I'm going to turn it this way because this is the side where it's going to close. Now isn't that awesome? You made a cover. And now see, you should have seams. And let's bring this up. It's kind of bright. There we go. So you should have your seam is right there. And then your other seam is right there. And it won't even be seen because you'll be covering it with your pattern paper. Now it's up to you. You can do your pattern paper now if you like to work with it flat. I don't. I do it very last because as I'm working, I don't want to scuff up the cover or tear it. Now we have to cover the inside because we don't want this bare. And this is a choice you can make. You can use your pattern paper in here if you like. You'll want to use one color because it's going to go all the way across. I just use the same color cardstock that I'm using for my cover. So what I'm going to do is first we need to put down our magnets here, and we're going to put magnets here, and then our pattern paper will cover this. So what we're going to do is, choice is yours. On my album, I had used 3 and 3 large ones because I wanted to ensure that it would stay shut. And if you don't want to use 3, that's okay. You can use 2. When using 2, just put one on the inside here and one here. I went with 3 because I did try 2, and I just, if the album gets pretty full, I wasn't sure. Oh, and we're going to have to do our ribbon before we put our inside paper down. So you need to decide, do you want a tie? Now, there's kind of a method to the madness. The sheer ribbon, that is also if you ordered the kit, was kind of to signify, remember the aprons and how they used to have this clear tie? That's what I was trying to recreate. So I wanted to have that there, and it doesn't hold the album shut. It's just for decoration purposes, and it goes underneath the pattern paper and the paper that I use to wrap the inside. So that has to also go down first, and I am going to put it again on this album. So we'll do that right after we put down our magnets. So if you're using just 2, it'll look about like that. It's just 1/4 inch inside from this border. I'm going to use 3. Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of these. They're coming off. There we go. I'm just going to stick it there in the middle. Now we're going to remove those. doesn't matter what size score tape, just you're going to want to put something across those. Just for safety's sake. Okay, let's go ahead and take the backs off. Now, I'm only going to do this because of the history when we were putting this on our bands. I'm going to go ahead with my 3/8 score tape. And I'm just going to add some reinforcement right on top. There we go. Now, you don't have a lot of, you'll notice it's, you know, kind of loose here. So you need to put your hand underneath, bring your cover up. So let me show you. Let me turn it this way. Bring your cover up so the front cover should match inside of this first fold right there. Okay, so put your hand underneath, bring your cover up, holding it up to the flap, and then push down. Now you'll see how that will hold that together nicely. Like I said, 3 magnets. Some might say it was overkill. I would rather be safe than sorry. So your pattern paper is going to cover that, and it's not even going to be seen. Most people don't even know they're there, especially when you get all your decorations on. Let me show you. You can't see them. See, there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Even when I bring it up close, you can't see those. They just kind of blend in really nice. So we'll just leave the tape on. We're going to open this. Now we know that we have a 9.5 inch, and it's going to take this extra piece. Remember that we cut off. You'll need this. Then you're going to need 2 more pieces of your 12 by 12, and go ahead and you're going to cut it at about 9 3/8 or 9 4/8. I always do 9 4/8. I check it, and if it looks like it's going to have any hangover, I think I'm going to go to 9 3/8. So let me look at this, and I think that's exactly what I want. So let me cut another piece. And they do match. And then see, we will just need that last piece. We don't need a lot. Now, what I did in my album though, I'm going to, I forgot, I just remembered this. I actually went from there to there, and I actually put the smaller piece in the middle. That's what I'm going to do on this one too, because it turned out really nice. It didn't even show that I had an add-on piece. So one thing too, let me show you. We have our spaces here when we're doing our cover, because this edge is so close to here. We're not going to put score tape along this edge. If you're using 1/2 inch, you're going to use 1/4 inch. You don't want the tape to go in there and grab your paper. So with our 1/2 inch score tape, or whatever size you've chosen to use, and please, any size will really work. You do have to cover it pretty good because you don't want it buckling or bubbling. So I'm going to go all the way across here. Then with my 1/4 inch, because I don't want it to interfere with that hinge at all, I'm going, or space. Speaking of spaces, we're going to have to kind of mark, see this space? So I'm going to lay my paper here I don't want my tape to go directly there, so I'm just going to move it over. Make a mental mark, or you can mark it with a pencil. And these are the little tricks that I've learned that just keep my paper from cracking and not laying down how I want them to on my albums. So we get to take this off again. And I know this is really the long part of making our album. I apologize, because once you learn how to do this, though, it'll go by so much quicker. All of our covering off. Okay, let's move our album. Then line it up. Top to bottom, you should have just like maybe an 1/8. Just kind of gauge where you want it. Here, there's no perfect measurement or right or wrong. Again, this time you don't want to use the side at all. Use your flat side, and be careful when you get in over here towards your faces. Okay, now I'm going to just take my finger, kind of mark where my first one is. I see my paper needs a little more help laying down. I'm not pushing hard at all. Okay, we're going to do the same right here. Do not push hard, or if you're not sure, go ahead and use your finger until you really get the feel. And as you can see, the Scor tape is also going to help make a really nice ridge in there. Now, this is going to be a little harder to push over. Don't force it. Bend it, kind of help it go back and forth. Again, do not force it, it will crack. There we go. So it should look nice, lay flat, and look, you have some nice indents there. Now, you will have to help this go down just on that edge. Okay, now let's go ahead and do this edge. I'm going to take off the Scor tape from the magnets. And I'm going to do the same, oh, I should have checked. I'm going to do the same thing. So you want to just make sure, I'm going to mark this. I have, let me get in the camera. Without, I should have left the tape on my magnets. It's okay. I'm going to mark here and here. Those are the two places where my hinges are. So I don't want, so right there and right there, I want to put the tape in the middle. And on this side, I don't want it to be in that crease at all. And we have no other hinge, so we can actually go all the way around the perimeter. I'm going to go down this middle, so don't go across there. Putting it a little closer down because this is going to be the piece that is on my flap and over those magnets. So I want to make sure I catch them good. We're almost there. We're almost there. And we're going to remove all of our Scor tape. getting sticky now. Should we turn any pieces over that's hanging off your edge? Okay. Now we're down here on the flat piece where our magnets are. At about 1/8 of an inch or so. But make sure you have everything straight, top to bottom, so it's not going on crooked. Now with our bone fold, they're flat, or it's a little bit rounded, not the edge. Now go over your magnets, but don't push hard. You can see them, you can feel them, but you can't really see them. Now again, we have our 2 folds here. Over. Anywhere you see that it didn't quite catch, go ahead and work your paper down. Now we just have this little piece in the middle. Now you don't want a bunch of bulk, so lay your paper down. So we have this first hinge, you just want it to come about in the middle. Side's a little crooked, I need to cut it, so I'm going to put it right about there. And then I'm going to mark it over there so it looks like I'm cutting, let me tell you, about a 3" by 9.5. Get this all cut. Well, no, not quite 9.5. We did 9 3/8. Maybe cut it down just a hair more. And yeah, that was so crooked to me. Sometimes my big cutter doesn't like to do the smaller widths. Yeah, it's a little bit off. There we go. Okay, now we can go ahead and get our tape down. On this piece. And I'm going to go all the way around. And then 2 in the middle. Sticking to everything. There we go. Okay, now don't, you have this fold here, so you want to make sure you stay about halfway so that we don't interfere or put any more bulk inside of that fold. We're going to just work it down. Take our cover. This I need some. Mine is a little tight there. There you go. Now, if you happen to find that you're closing this and you just feel that you needed that 3rd magnet, you can go ahead and add a 3rd magnet onto here because you're still going to cover it with pattern paper and it will hide it. So don't feel like you can't add one at this point. You can. So there is now our album. Now we can go ahead and put down our innards. So let's grab the first waterfall we made. Now on this waterfall, what I did is I centered it, and again I just kind of glanced at it. If you want to measure and get an exact you know, ½ inch or so on each side, that's fine. I didn't. I'm just going to take off my backing. Now your waterfall and your recipe pages are going to have a lot of pulling and tugging on. So I am going to go ahead, now that I have my tape off. You may want to put a wet adhesive or whatever you're using, but I'm just going to go ahead with my ½ inch, and I'm going to add 2 more strips right there. Because I just know that it's going to get a lot of wear and tear. Now I'm going to let it stand up here, and I'm going to have to, you have to just, like I said, if you're measuring, that's great. I'm not. I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm keeping my fingers back here and just moving it around with my fingers till I think it looks good, till I'm happy, and then down it goes. Now let's go ahead and open this, and let's take our bone folder, move all of our waterfalls, and you're going to now push it down and burnish it good. Or if you have a brayer, one of the rollers, that works good too. Just be careful you don't poke into your page with your bone folder. Excuse me. Now I'm going to use this. I'm going along all of my areas here that I could not reach. So push that all down. There we have the waterfall. Isn't that awesome? So when you close your page. Now, one thing I noticed on the other one, it did get kind of heavy, and since I have one of my large magnets left, I'm going to go ahead and use my last one. And I'm going to put one down in the middle and here to help hold this, because I noticed it did get pretty heavy once it was totally decorated. And I'm just going to put that in the middle of the pocket. Seems like the plus ones come off really easy. It's the minus. There we go. I can kind of move this to the side. Yeah, I knew I was going to lose it. We're just going to have to use the Scor tape on that. I don't know what the deal is with this batch of magnets. There we go. Now, I think that will help, yeah, give that a little more. Oh, it does. It gives it more security. If you notice, the other one sort of opens up when I open the book, but that helps a lot. So I would go ahead, if you don't mind using your last magnet, and put that on there. So now we have this page. Now this one is going to fit almost perfectly in there. Now you should only have about 1/4 inch. And what I'm doing is I'm lining it up where we ended our middle paper. And that looks really good. With this one, because its size, I do have to stand up. Okay. And again, after I remove my Scor tape, once again, I will put my ½ inch Scor tape down the middle, or you can use a wet adhesive through here. just to reassure everything stays nice and tight. Now, we've just made the cover, and we've actually used the Scor tape on everywhere. This was a brand new roll, and as you can see, I've got tons left, enough for another cover or two. So don't be afraid to use the Scor tape. It's not really more expensive when you think about it. The roll is $5, but it's so worth it because it just works so well. So let me stand back up, get my cover aligned. See, if you keep your finger back there, your fingers, it's quite easier to grab a hold of it and pick it up and move it if you have to really fast. Make sure things are straight. And everything's away from that hinge. Okay. I'm going to move all my pockets. And I'm going to push that down. Now, once again, take my little tool and get to the paper we couldn't get to because these were on top. That should be nice and secure. And when you close it, you now have the workings of your recipe file box or book. And so what we'll do is I've got to finish putting the magnets here and clean up and get out our Graphic 45 Home Sweet Home paper, and I'll be right back. Okay, so while I was off camera, I went ahead and finished the magnets over on my right hand side, and then I had a little bit of a design flaw. So what I did, let me show you, when I had my book closed, you may find this too, so it's good that we can fix it now. When you opened your book, your waterfall probably came flying open because the two magnets were attaching to each other. So what I did is I moved my magnet, you can see where we had it, and I moved it down. So it's a good 2 inches down. So go ahead if you need to and just, yeah, get it off there. It's not going to show. Make sure you get all the tape. There we go. And I moved it down. So now when I open my book, I don't have pages flying open. So go ahead if you need to fix that and fix that. Now, if you ordered the Home Sweet Home kit, or if you have the Home Sweet Home paper at home, this is what I used. So I used 3, and you will get the Garden Fresh in your kit, and then the homemade, and of course you can use any combination. I've already started cutting that, so I'll just keep using it. This is the homemade, and yes, I'm going to be cutting my tags. That's why I put extras in for you. And then you will have this one also. So we will be cutting those papers, and it's always nice to have the extras. It's not so painful to cut. So now you'll have your 8.5 by 8.5, and mine is no longer in the cover because I used, oh yeah, no, the cover, that's right, the cover came off. So I've already used this pad and did that first album. So now I've got enough to make this album. And if you notice, I still have enough left for cards and probably even a small album with all my scraps. So that's just with one 8 by 8. So even though you feel like maybe you used a lot of cardstock putting this together, your pattern paper has really gone a long way on this. So what I did, this is going to be our waterfall. I just went into the paper, and it's not going to be exactly like my Waterfall in the original album, because there's a couple of sheets that I don't have because I did use those for other things. So these are the ones that I've chosen, and what we're going to do, we are going to use this, so I'll show you how to cut it. We're going to use front and back, so you'll be able to get 2 pieces. Now for the inside, because on this one I'm using the craft cardstock. On my other album it was made with the bright white, and so I used more of a ivory in the inside. So I am using the white cardstock. Now what's nice about this is just from Walmart. It's the printer cardstock or craft. It's not super duper heavy, and it's not super expensive. You can get like what, 150 or 200 sheets for $5. So I think the white on the craft cardstock, I really like that. And that's going to be where we can put recipes. Now, one thing I didn't do, and I'm going to go back and do, is I have the Home Sweet Home, some of the stamps. So I am going to do some stamping, but I want to leave room for writing recipes. So what you're going to do is you're going to lay down on the inside, and I'm not going to do that with you. Now, you can go ahead and ink your pages. I inked the original album in red, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So that is how you're going to do your insides if you choose. Now you will have a little bit of a white border here, so you might want to go ahead and ink it. I haven't decided yet if I want to ink the insides of this, being that it's white. And then the outside, I'm going to follow along a little bit, but you're going to see how perfect your 8x8 paper is going to fit. Now we're going to cut these in half, and I'm going to do that now on this one. You need to pay special attention because we want to cut it so that this top piece is going to be on this back part. So actually I'm going to cut that one first. So we know that our album pages for our Waterfall, they measure at 4. So let's cut it at 3 7/8. So as you can see, I will still have Mom out at the clothesline, and it looks like I'm going to go ahead and trim down just a hair on each side. I mean, literally just a hair. But do both sides so that... So what I did is I just put it down and did 7 7/8, and then I put it at 7 7/8 again, and that will give me that tiny border that will go all the way around. And that one will sit just like that. So that's where that will go. Now, the back side of it, let's go ahead and cut that down the same way, except you don't have to worry about evening up your sides. And once again, 3 7/8, and then you want to cut 3 7/8 by the 7 7/8. Now you can decide if you'd prefer that there, but I'm going to have this here because I want it to coordinate. Let me show you. So I had all the back sides of the paper on the front, and the reason being is so that people wouldn't be so afraid to cover that up with a recipe. And then on the back was the little bit more of the decorated paper. And this is where I'd use that cut out. So for this one though, I'm going to be using this one. So I still have that Home Sweet Home effect. Or if you prefer, you can actually have that as your first one. And then when your flap comes up. So, you know, personal choice. Actually, you know, that looked really good. So let me go ahead and put this off to the side. And I'm going to put this one down. And you know, that looks really good, actually. Oh, now you got, oh, I forgot. We did cut this flap a little bit smaller. So we're going to cut this one down to 3 and, let me try 3 6/8. Nope, I'm going to go 3 5/8. So I'm going to cut it from the top. Actually, 3 7/5. Sorry, we're going to cut them at 3 7/5. So no harm done. 3 7/5. And actually, I like that a lot. I do believe. I do. So when you open it, that's what we have. Now, we have this piece. So the back side, we're going to cut it down to fit our next one. So we need to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more 3 7/5 by 7 7/8. So you have plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and get all mine cut, and I'll be right back and we'll put these down. Okay, a couple of things on the decorating that I want to show you. So I went ahead and I've cut out my papers. Now remember, this one is shorter, so you will need to cut the back side. This one's 3 7/5, but this one's going to be about 3 7/8 underneath, because this is the wider one. So what I've done is I went ahead and I got everything cut, and I decided, instead of like I said, I'm going to put this one down. Now when I put these down, I'm going to use, well, generally I would use 1/8 Scor tape. You can use the 1/8 or the 1/4. I am not going to go through all of this with you. I'm going to show you though, because I'm sure most of you already, you've got the hang of it. You can use your wet adhesive or your Scor tape. So on the inside, like I showed you, I'm going to do the all white on each one. Very simple. Again, you just adhere them down. Let's remove that. Remove this from the back. I want to show you how to do this band. And so, like I said, we're not going to go through the decorating of every single page except for on the outside with making the flowers. And I'll show you some of the things I did on the original album when I did decorate. Okay, I'm not going to go through the matting of the pages, sorry. We're going to go through the decorating though. So I will mat the pages that we are going to decorate. I'm actually going to take these out. Now, when we put down our waterfall, the best thing to do is to grab your papers. And I did go ahead and I used Vintage Photo and I inked all of mine. Decide what it is, how you want your waterfall to look. And I need the shorter ones. What I decided on mine is I'm going to have the Home Sweet Home base page. So I'm going to set them all in there and just lay them down and decide how do you want your waterfall to look. And I'll kind of move things around as I'm doing it, because I just don't want too many of the reds together. We'll go ahead and put a red inside there. And then our floral. Oh, fingers don't want to work. And then our tomatoes, and the last one will be my red. So that's what I do, and then you can go ahead and adhere all those down the same way that I just did this one, Scor tape all the way around. Now on the back side, I went ahead and then I cut these pieces, which are larger. Let me scoot down. So what I want to do is now kind of match them up to the back side, and I like that. And look at it and see what it is you like. There's no right and no wrong here. I think we'll go all blue. And I think the homegrown will look really cute there. And the red and blue. Actually, let me take a peek at something. Oh, okay. The red and blue, I see what I did. And I really don't want it to be all the same, but I want it to coordinate here. So when I get to my last page now, I'll adhere everything down. You will have had, when you were cutting your mats, you should have one more left over. Now this one is going to go inside of our pocket. And again, I just cut it. Let me move this so you can see. I cut it down. Now, you want to bring it just up to where the waterfall, there it ends. Now what I do is, oh, I've gone ahead and, have I already inked? Yes, I have already inked it. I only put my Scor tape on 3 sides. So I'm going to put it on the bottom. No, I'm going to put it on the top. And then on the sides. And when you're doing pockets, it doesn't have to go all the way down. You just want it to cover it so it doesn't show right at the top of the inside of the pocket. And if you're using Scor tape, it's best not to do this bottom piece because trying to get it in, trust me, it's going to stick. So it's tricky because it is tight. Now I try to get it in there and then push it up against, there we go, the pocket so that I can slide it down in. Again, this takes just some practice. Keep your fingers back there. Line it up, there we go. And breathe, now that we've got that in. Tools away here. Okay, we're going to adhere that down. And then I cut this already to fit. It will go right there. And since I did do the decorating, we'll go ahead and I'm going to put this one down. And this is just the way I decorated it when I did the original album. And you know, you can change it up. Everybody has a different preference. Now we're going to be doing a little fussy cutting. And because I did not have exactly what I wanted in the way of the stickers or the embellishments, let me grab this. So what I did is I took the You Are My Sunshine, and actually I'm going to cut that blue off, or you can leave it. So this is your cut apart sheet, and your cut apart sheet, this is the larger one, 12 by 12, looks like this, and it is in your it's in your paper pack. So I just cut off a strip of this one, and I think this time I am going to leave that. And then I did some fussy cutting. So let me find where I fussy cut off of, and I believe it was right here. So what I did is I cut the Farm Fresh, and it goes right here. So I literally just cut that right off. I could have swore I just had my scissors in my hand. There we go. So I'm going to take that. We're going to fussy cut that. And then I cut off, let's see, a lettuce and a tomato. That's exactly where I may have cut that from. So from the postage stamp, just go, you can cut out one of the lettuces. Lettuce. Let me show you. And that is what I fussy cut to go right here. And you can see the Farm Fresh here. Now this is from the 8x8 pad. This one that I'm going to fussy cut is from the 12 by 12 pad. I'm going to do it a little bit bigger. So either one is fine. And then I did a fussy cut on here. The apple pie is also from your 8 by 8. And let me see, I don't think I have the 8 by 8 left, because I used it not only on this album, but another album. And I don't want to open another 8 by 8 paper pack, so let me show you. On your 8 by 8 pack, because you'll still have them. Like I said, this is a pad I've been using. You'll cut off the apple pie, this little emblem, and I backed it on the cardstock, and then it went on the front. But now where I've changed my front cover, I won't actually need to put it there, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll show you what I'm going to put on there. But let's do this bottom first. So what I want to do is cut out the Farm Fresh. And there's really no art or science to fussy cutting. Just cut around your edges and don't worry about it being super perfect. I used to use my Tim Holtz scissors for this because they're wonderful for everything. And then I found that was why I was having problems. They're just too big. So if you have a pair of the scissors, if you sew or crochet that are smaller for thread, they work wonderful. And let's just cut that off. Now, your distress ink will hide any imperfections, flaws, no fears. Now, let me go ahead and cut this and we'll get it put down. And again, let me go ahead and ink around these edges. And my Scor tape. Now this is bigger than in the original book because, like I said, this is from the 12 by 12. This 8 by 8 paper pad has not only made this the original album, but I made cards with it, so it has gone a long ways. And I, probably didn't need all this Scor tape, but I want to make sure it stays down. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put this right on top. Now, I use my hot glue gun for a lot of my embellishments. If you can work fast, the glue gun is great, especially when it comes to chipboards. So I'm just going to put that down. And it gives it just a little bit of dimension. Makes it not quite flat on your page. Now over here, that's where I had fussy cut the tomato. And so what I did is I just fussy cut that out and the lettuce, and then I set it right on top. So you can do that. But let me take us back to this front page. Again, you can decide. I don't know. I think I'm just going to put a flower up here on the corner. So let me show you how I make my flowers. I like to use my punches. You can use a punch. You can use, gosh, your Cricut, anything you want. Let me get out a piece that is going to coordinate a little better. Not coordinate, but give us a little color. So I'm going to punch out three of my flowers. Now the thing with this is, you don't want this flower to be sticking up too much. And I can't find anything today, sorry. There he is. I'm going to use my bone folder on here, and I'm just going to literally put it there and round these edges. You can round them up, you can round them down. So I'm going to do some up and I'm going to do some down. And it'll give it a little bit of dimension. If you have tools, or if you have, well, there went that one. Let me go ahead and punch another one real quick. Don't pull too hard. This is why I like punches. They're quick, they're fast. You don't have to get out my Cricut, but you can. Okay, back to foam. If you have a piece of foam and any kind of a tool will work. I'm going to use this so I can show you. This was actually from an iPad. Love it. So it's been the best thing. What I do is I take my flour and I'm going to roll it in the middle. Now, if you don't have one of those tools, but you have this Cricut tool, then you can go ahead and use it. Either one will work great. Again, we're going to be rounding this and just smashing up a little bit, but it's going to be somewhat flattened. Okay, I'm picking red ink up from somewhere. So I'm going to use this side. Must have been on there from my last album. So I'll put that in the middle. So what I'm going to do is start with just one of my petals. I'm going to do a drop of glue. I'm going to put it on there really quick and make sure my petals are not right on top of each other. Somewhat staggered. And then I'm going to do one more in the middle. And I think I'll go ahead and go with the stripes, since I put stripes on the bottom. And again, let's get them staggered. And then while it's not quite dry, I like to push down. See how that flower is taking shape? And then choose what you want in the middle. If you have purchased the tutorial with the kit, then you did receive these little wings. So I'm going to use one of those with the red. Put these away. I hope I've been staying in camera. I apologize. I guess I wasn't paying attention. Let me look at this. Now I'm just going to go ahead, decide where I want to put this flower. And once you start decorating, then things kind of hit you. Like this is hitting me, that I can actually put one of my chipboard. Let's see if I have a journaling tag. Now on the original album, I used the chipboard journaling tag. And I do have one. I'm not sure if it's the right color. And I'm going to put it down here on the side. Again, I'm going to use my hot glue gun. Just get it there in the center. And let's put that right down. And then if you want, you can go ahead and decorate over here. Just put maybe something small. But we're also going to put one of our chipboards right here. And again, this is personal preference. You can put whichever one that you like, because you should have a whole package if you bought the kit. That's small. We can even put that in the corner. So see, just play with it. I know I'm going to use that one. So in the original album, let me bring it over. I used one of the from that one page that has all of your these thingies, and it went really well because this was plain. But because I've now used a pattern, what I've chosen is the red. So what you want to do, we measured this. Remember, we put it down. It was 1.5, so I cut this just about 1/8 of an inch shorter, and it was 8 inches long. Now we have the point at the top, so we're going to do the same thing. We're going to bring these together just like we're folding a paper airplane. And if I don't quit losing my bone folder, okay, so you can decide, do you want to cut those off? Let me bring my book down again. Do you want to cut those off like we did here, or just leave it? Another option is you can actually wrap it around there just like that, and then cover the back with the next piece of paper. So if you really want to just cover that whole thing, you can also do that. But I'm not, because I didn't cut it long enough. Now if you're going to do that, make sure you cut it about a 1/2 inch longer. So now I'm going to put that down. Go ahead and get my score tape. Oh, on the back, since I am going to leave it, I'm just going to put a little dot of glue here and there. And I'm leaving it because it does add some extra strength. Getting the camera. It's hard when we have such a long book that we're working on, because the book now is in the way. Okay, let's put our score tape. Now let me show you on here. I also take my score tape, I hope you can see okay, straight down this middle piece, and then just straight down here. Okay, now I'm going to match it up there with the top. Keep your I did it. Keep your fingers crossed, I was saying, because I had to peel that off. Let me stand up here. There we go. Now, you don't want it clear at the bottom because you do need room for it to open and close. Now I'm going to go ahead with my chipboard. Now on the chipboard, I'm going to just punch that circle out. Just go around this edge somewhat with my tape. My tape. Distress ink. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm going to use my hot glue gun. And I'm going to choose, you can choose a bling, you can choose, because I did put bling in your kits. You can decide if you just want to do maybe a pearl. And I think I'm going to go with the gold. It matches with the flower. And again, the hot glue. And let's just put it down. You can use a button. You can even tie in there if you want. Your choice. So that is how our waterfall is going to look. And then again, you'll do the back side. Make sure I didn't stop. Okay, the back side is going to be done the same way as we did the front side. You're just going to fold those corners. Sometimes you have to play with the paper to get it to cooperate. Once you get the shape, which I've never had it come out that perfect before, so I'm very happy. You're going to then put it down, and I know I'm out of camera, but this is just so long. Now this is where you might see your graphic 45 paper likes to maybe start cracking on you when you fold it like that. That's why I don't like to use it straight out on my covers. Okay, I'm going to take off. I have some tape there, and if I can put that there without everything falling. Nope, I can't. So I apologize. I'm putting it on just like I did the front, though. When you start working with albums that are over 8 inches long and 8 inches wide, it is hard for me to get them in the camera. So let me go ahead and place this down. See that point? Now it's nice and firm. Move that glue gun. And that's how my cover's going to look. I'm excited to see how your cover's going to look. So now we need to go on and do a couple of other pieces, because I also forgot, you may have noticed, to put some ribbon down as a tie closure. So let me move this. I have to get my hook out and ready. That's going to go on our middle piece. Now, this was in your kit. You should have gotten 2 of these in your kit. I've already taken the wire. There's a funny wire on it. Let me see. I've already taken it off, but I didn't have one off of there. So it's going to go in the middle. I've already pre-cut my paper. Now, in the original album, I used this side, but you know what? When I was cutting it, I really like the way it was coming together with the sayings. It just cut perfectly. So I'm going to use in this album this side. So I'm going to put my score tape down here. Get the book so you can see. And I know I'm not in camera. And I'm going to have to grab one more roll of score tape. Okay. I should have used a new roll on this, but I didn't. Okay, let's take one down the middle. Now I won't do the other spine on the camera, save some time for you, but you'll do the other side exactly like this. You know how we have 2 of the smaller areas, our spines, but I'll do the cover part where I forgot the ribbon, because I'm sure if you were following along with me, because I did not show you how I had done it in the other album, and I'm really sorry. If you want your ribbon to tie around like I did, you'll put it underneath here. Because I didn't, we can still have the ribbon on the front as a decorative piece, and I'll show you how we're going to do that. So this is important to get this down really well, because we're going to take our clip. Now, one thing you might want to use is E6000. I've used hot glue, and it seems to be working pretty good. These are pretty tight, and it seems to be holding, but if you have some E6000, this is what's going to hold those little cutouts in that center piece. And so I'm just going to go ahead with my hot glue, and I'm going to put it all over. And to be honest with you, I just picked the spot, and I'm putting it here so it looks like the piece. It's holding the piece there, and the glue does seem to work, but if you can let it dry overnight, E6000 will work too. So now let's come over here, so that if you still want a ribbon, and it's just for decoration, that ties around here, we can still have it. I had just done this inside because, to be honest with you, I was going to use it as a tie, but this album's just too heavy. It wasn't big enough. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ribbon there. You should have had in your kit almost 2 yards, but you don't need a full 2 yards, of course. So I'm just going to cut off, let's see, I'm going to cut off 15 inches. And you'll need 2 of them. So you'll just want this to be in the middle. And I just use score tape for that. I'm just going to put a piece down. And just kind of eyeball it or measure it. And let's take the top one and bottom off. Now you just take your piece of ribbon and lay it over that score tape. On both sides. Then we're going to take our pattern paper and it will go right on top. And I'm actually using a 3/8. I want to make sure it's going to hold down really well. And this is 2 7/8 wide by not quite 9.5. I cut it again just about an 1/8 inch shorter than the width of the album. Okay, let's take this off. Now, we've already decorated, you know, that piece, the band that held the waterfall together. So when you go to do this one, you're going to do it the exact same way as you did the waterfall. And I'll give you the measurements for the papers. Again, I won't decorate them with you because it's very simple. And you can just choose which ones you want and what order you want from your 6x6 paper pad. So let's go ahead and make sure that's really good over that ribbon. So as you close it, so you can still tie it. And like I said, for me, the whole thing of it was I wanted it to look, kind of give the feel of that old apron look. So that's 15 inches, which is plenty. And I'm going to cut this side just a hair. Now what I do with my ribbon, so that it doesn't come unfrazzled on the end, we're going to play with fire. I just take a lighter. Now with this, you just need to be quick, but don't really touch it too much, like I did right there. And it should melt the fibers. I know there's other methods. For me, this is just how I've always done it. And then you'll get a bead. You should feel it there. And it'll keep your ribbon from unraveling. You can use nail polish. You can use stop ravel or ravel stop. There's a lot of things you can use. I just prefer this. And then it melts. And you'll feel the bead at the end. So it still gives you that look. Instead of coming from inside, it's just on the outside. And so let's go ahead and open this. Now, for these, just go ahead with your 6x6 paper pad. And what I've done is I just went through and I chose what I liked. And I cut them at 3 by 5 7/8. Now, I used because you get 36 sheets in that 6x6. So I used it front and back. So you can see I used more of the solid. And that's, you know, that's your choice. I'm going to be putting white on the back of mine like I did white in the waterfall because I don't quite have enough of my paper pad left because I've used it for other things. And then I did my belly band just like we did a few minutes ago, and then just choose your chipboard. I tied the string around it and I put it down. Then in the middle, these are also part of your chipboard. So here's an open chipboard. You'll have the little button looks. So I just chose the buttons and I put them down. And this Home Sweet Home is actually in the, this isn't the one you'll get. You'll get this one. I took this and I just glued this down and I put pop dots. See on that middle piece? So it would pop up like that. And that was all I did there. So I think you guys can handle that. No problem. But we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how to do your pullouts. And then we will go ahead and do, now this is also self-explanatory. You have this printout. What I did is I cut the printout down and I just matted it onto the cardstock and I put it down. But we'll go ahead and I'll show you this. I put a piece there and a piece inside. You can see that okay. So it covered it up. Okay, so let's take out, so your top ones. If you have an envelope punch board, if you don't have an envelope punch board, then you can just use like your tab punch, this one, and then just put it one on this side, one on that side, one on this side, one on that side. So if you have the tab punch, I use my envelope punch board and I put it at 1 3/4, and I did all those at 1 3/4. Then I took, this is the side load at the bottom, and again I did it at 1 3/4. So I'm going to do 2 of each, show you how I staggered them. So 1 3/4. You can cover these with your pattern paper. I did not. Again, that's personal choice. Now, what you want to do is you've punched it at 1 3/4. So I turn it and I grab my ruler. And you're going to want your blade for this, or your knife, whichever, your X-Acto knife. Now I just line it, I put it down. I line up my, let me bring this down for you. I line up the ruler so it's right there where that half circle is. Take your blade and just cut that off. Now if you happen to have a little tail left, which that happens right there sometimes, I just grab my scissors and I clip it off. Like that. So let's go ahead and, I thought I did 2 of those. You know, I did. I just don't know what I did with it. So let's cut it again at 3/4. Take your ruler or however you want to cut it. You can also put it in your cutter. I went down a little far. So now you're just going to take this, turn it over. So now you have one that goes that way and one that goes that way. And those just go into your pockets. So for our top ones, you have a shorter side and a longer side. So make sure you're cutting the longer side off. Whoops. Wrong side of the knife. There we have that. Cut the longer side off. So now you have one this way and you have one this way. So that's how I did those. Really simple. I think once you do them, you'll think they're pretty easy too. So I did that with my envelope punch board. So let me go ahead and clean this up, and what we'll do next is we'll go ahead and put down going to put down the cardstock, or not the cardstock. We're going to put the pattern paper onto the cardstock. And see where your waterfall ended? So it should be about 6. And of course by the 9.5. For this one I used the blue. So let me get my blue cut. A little longer than I like. When you're adjusting, I just cut little by little until it's where I want it. Now don't worry if it's if you think it's a little bit short, because we're going to cover that. So I'll go ahead and go over this with my Distress ink. And then you'll take the cutout with your measurements and you'll mat it. And it will go down on top of there. See that? Remember that will go down right on top. Now, let's go ahead and put this one down. After we put this down and we make the strips to go there, we'll go ahead and move to the cover. And what we'll do is I'll just show you the picture of what I did, and then you know, I'm sure you can handle that just fine. And what we'll do is we'll go on and I'll show you how I made the flowers. Put that on. Now for right here. Now we know that we scored when we were making these pockets at 1/2 inch. So we want to go ahead and pick what you want to use. Mostly I look down and see what I have on my scraps and cut it to the length. Which, you know, again, we're at 9.5, but we don't want it, we want it to match the paper we already put down as much as possible. So that sometimes just takes a little bit of adjusting. Now I'm going to use my smaller cutter for this. And I know that this space was 1/2 inch, but I need to come over just a hair more. So actually I'm just going to cut it at a full 1/2 inch. If I can get my paper in here. And we're just going to go a little further. Still going to use that, so not a waste at all. Me and this cutter. So I went just a hair over 1/2 inch. And because we've moved up, I do want it to butt up against. the blue paper. To give it that border look and also to cover that space. You don't want it to get in the way of your folds. You just need to make sure it's not. It might be just a hair too wide. Sorry. That's why I try to not do all the decorating. Everybody can pretty much handle it, because sometimes there is a lot of adjusting to your decorating, because we don't always get folds perfect and we don't always get corners cut straight. Okay, now as you can see, I've got a little bit of a blade issue there, so I'm going to just use my sand block. And I just like to get those off. Nothing worse than a bad blade. That's why I went to a more professional cutter, because I never have to change the blade on my doll. Okay. I'm just going to take my 3/8 of an inch score tape straight down the middle. You can put it on each side if you like. Really no need to. I hope I didn't take you guys completely out of camera as to what I was doing. So anyway, now I'm going to put it down. I'm going to butt it up against my blue paper. And then you'll be able to put your printout down, and I will have this middle piece in. And then go ahead and get all your fronts decorated. And then you see, it's amazing. It doesn't take that long. So now let's go ahead and let's look at the front. The main thing with the front and the size. So what I did, let me move this one. Again, I used the blue and I cut it just the 1/8 of an inch around to fit on the front. This was the printout. I matted it and put it on the back of, I matted it and put it on the cardstock. There we go. This homegrown is in the chipboards if you've ordered the kit. So is this one. Again, I showed you, I just did my glue gun. Now, Farm Fresh. Let me get to some of these cutouts here. This sheet is absolutely wonderful for the cutouts. So what I did is the Farm Fresh came from right here. Should be down here at the bottom. So I just cut that out, and I have some red ink, so I went around the edge to fill in the spots. Then this was just a strip that was actually left over. This one right here would be a good one left over. It's not quite as wide. So you have plenty, you should have plenty of paper left over. You can decide what you want to use if you bought the kit. And then again, the milk can. The milk can came off of this page right here. Just cut that out. And then on the front cover is your stove right in the middle. And then the little general store was just left over on one of my blue pieces. And I just cut it. Let me find it on here. I know it's on here because I used the Home Sweet Home. Oh, there it is. So here is your general store. So I just cut around there and went straight across to get Old McDonald. I wanted Old McDonald still in there. And then I just hot glued that one down. So that's how you do that. Now what I want to do is show you I'm going to leave the book here so I can show you the flowers and how easy they are to make. So with all your, this was all made with my leftover 6x6. Once you cut your 6x6 papers, you should have just a little strip left over when you're covering your pockets. Let me get the flowers, and I'm going to show you. I already showed you how I made that, the one inside the book, and that was this one right here. And then this one is going to be this punch, and this one is this punch, and same with this one is this punch. And you can pick these up usually for 50% off at Joann's, and I picked this one up at Hobby Lobby, and this one is those leaves. So I'm going to grab my mat. And let's see, one more thing on the back. On the back was the red, and I just cut it. Bring this up. And then this was one of the recipe cutouts that was from the 12x12 paper pad, and I just put it down so that you might want to write a note on there for whoever you're giving it to. Then I just used my chipboards. One on this side, and I used the 2 vegetables on this side. Again, hot glue works beautifully. So let me put that down, and let's go ahead and make this larger flower. And for the center, I did use this, and this is one of the Hobby Lobby brands, and it works great. So, we don't want to use that one. I'm going to use this piece, even though I probably wouldn't put it on the cover because it's blue, but I just want to show you how to make the flower. So I cut out 5. So I'm cutting out 5 of those. Now I need to cut some of the small ones. And you should have plenty of scraps. Don't throw anything away. And you're going to need 2 of those. And then we have the leaves. Let's see if I have anything green. Go ahead and get one of these out. So I'm going to take my punch. It looks like I used 3 leaves. And this is such a wonderful way to fussy cut, to use your punches so that you're not having to buy a bunch of extra stickers and things like that. So let's go ahead, and actually I'm going to use this side so that it's more of a usable flower for me. Let me see what, oh yeah, it's going to look great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fingers and just pinch my leaves together. This punch makes it a lot easier because they're wider. I think we'll kind of do a blue and a off-white flower. So we're going to go maybe a little multicolor here. And one more. Now, on this, go ahead and take your, if you're using a tool or the back of a pencil, and just push there. Literally push and get those to move up a hair. So let's take our small ones. Should have those 2 right in the middle. Hot glue gun works great, but you can use your wet glue. Now before you start gluing though, always figure out your orientation. So I want this one to be first so that you don't start gluing and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, oops. So I start with the bottom. This one's my bottom. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to glue. Then you're going to stagger your petals While it's drying, I just push with my finger. And move to our next one. Again, just give it a push with your fingers. You can even add more than 5, just depending on how full you want your flour to be. Now we're going to take our small ones. Now when I put those down while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and push on it because I want to bring those petals up a little. And again, I'm going to push on there, and these probably didn't stagger as much as I wanted, but that's okay. Flowers in nature are never perfect. Now, you can decide what you want for a center. You can use a bead. You can use another thing that works if you don't have any centers is to use your liquid pearls and put a dot and then let it dry overnight. But then you'll have a flower. Whoops, let me get you in, that will sit, in the corner. And then you'll want to go ahead and make the small one exactly like I made the big one, because this is an exact duplicate. It's just a smaller flower, and make another one for here. Now for this one, I only used 3 petals. So you'll make it using the 3 petals the exact same way that I just showed you to make this one. And then with your leaves, you're going to, again, pinch them, and I just push them up a little bit to make them form. And then I take just one of my leaves, put a little bit of glue, and that's if I'm putting them 2 together. And then after I get my flowers done, I just glue it and stick it in there. So that's how I make my leaves, and that's how I make the flowers. And then you've got your fussy cutting, and then these are just your chipboards. After you get your flowers down, go ahead and put your chipboards in, and then you will have yourself a lovely album. So I hope you had fun making the Home Sweet Home recipe album, and I hope to see lots of pictures of your creations. I'd love to share them, especially on Facebook at Country Craft Creations in Hooper, or on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations. And if you're having any problem at all, just shoot me an email and I'll be glad to give you some assistance. So thanks for joining me, and I hope that you had as much fun as I did. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.